So these options above here are very practical, so pay attention. I come inside, and this zooming process that you see is with Control and Alt and the middle scroller. So I click on this section, auto exposure, we click on that. For me personally, it is not very practical. Sometimes I set it with the default exposure setting of the Vantage, but you could check it out. For example, as you can see, some part of the project is burnt, like here. Maybe I like that, but I click on it to see what Vantage recommends us. Okay, the next one is the frame focus. For example, I can come here and take an angle like this, and I could have my preview. It's so much easier than controlling it in the Max app software, sorry. And then we come to this section, we activate depth of view, and when this option is activated, I click on this glass, and as you can see, it is focused on that. And when we click on other objects, it is focused on those objects. And of course, for the focusing section, we have some editing process. For example, we can come here and change the focus level like this. We will discuss them later. The next section is gives us the golden ratios. The golden angles. We can come here and change these ratios, of course. As you can see, there are many different options for that, and they're helpful for our camera angle. So just take a look at the different options and different settings for the angles and the frames, of course. So right here, I can change the color, I can change the thickness of these lines, which are not that much important. So I'll get out of this. The next section is free look. If I click on it, it becomes like a game. I can move inside, I can look freely with the keys of W, S, D, and A, of course, and I can move up with Q and move down with E. And I'll get out of this situation with escape button. The next one is the collision. It is activated by the key C. If I click on it, nothing happens here. It is activated when I click on this 2. So take a look at it. It has a speed. And of course, we have an eye height. This is the height of a standard human being eye. So when we activate it, it happens that we move like a human being exactly. And when we make a contact to the objects, it stops. It does not go through these objects. I should mention that this is not a very important section either. So we get out of this too. So right here in this section, we have different navigations. We have 3 types of navigations. The first one is the default one, which navigates around our mouse controller like this, as you can see. The next one is navigate around a target. When we click on it, it navigates around that. And the next one navigates around a selected object, which we shouldn't be in the live sync situation. It's not going to be practical for us right now. And the next one makes our movement a little bit slower. It helps us to observe these objects and our frames and camera views better. So let's go to the next one. These are very important sections. When we click on it and when we activate it, it pauses our render and it stops all the pressure on our graphic card. The next one will activate the opacity. For example, you have some tree inside your environment and they have a texture and opacity. So when we click on it, we have the opacity. We don't have that square and pixel type of rendering. The next one is toggle the noises. When we deactivate it, we can see the noises. And how it works is that I can see the noises and the density of those noises in part of our project, of course. And for example, it helps us during an animation. Sometimes when we're moving around, for example, we see animation is jumping around. How it works for us is that, so right now we activate it and we come to this edit and this section. And as we mentioned before, we change this number to 5,000. And as you can see, it is automatically rendering for itself. So right now, as you can see, this part has more noises comparing to other parts, I understand that some part of the project and its material needs some editing. For example, like this part to make less noise. For example, sometimes we download a texture and it has a high resolution, so definitely it has a lot of noise. And with the help of that, we can, decrease the amount of resolution. Of course, we have a section which automatically decreases it, but I wanted you to understand the section. Okay, we get back to our editing section and we change this number to 100 and we go for the next one. So this is toggle color collection. If I activate it, it gives us the toggle color collection section, which is completely normal and obvious from it, but it works for the low quality system. It decreases the resolution amount, which is, for example, I think it turns it into half. So when we deactivate it, as you can see, we are moving around very smoothly and we can control our scene better. But when we activate it, is just when it's deactivated, the resolution is much higher. It takes more FPS, obviously. For example, right now our FPS is 360, I think. And when we activate it, our FPS is on 90. So if you don't have a good graphic card, make sure you would use this section. This last section is very essential. It gives us the percentage of the rendering resolution and setting which we are using in Max inside of Vantage. So you see when we move around, it resets the scene like this. Let's just go around. And as you can see, these numbers are exactly the same, the resolution type for the output. And right now I make it into half. And as you can see, this is what happens. Now if I move it, it exactly stays the same because it is using half the camera. So you can change the different settings and it is obvious what the outcome would be. And for the right panel, we have environment, material, and scene statement. For the live link section, we don't work with these two, but for the material, so here there is a very practical section, which is clay mode. It gives one color to all objects. It is used for the lighting process. So I can activate auto exposure. It decreases the burnt amount, or I can, like this, change the color of our environment. And in the clay mode, I can see the usage of some textures and material right here in this section. For example, if I turn off use reflection, we can see that the reflections are off. Like this, you can see that this object loses the reflection, and of course there are other settings too which are obvious.